The massive arena floated in space like a metal moon. Ships from across the galaxy brought their finest warriors to compete in the Warriors' Conclave. This happened only once every 4 years, and everyone who mattered was here. Marcus Chen stood at the registration desk, watching alien creatures tower over him. Some had 4 arms, others breathed fire, and a few looked like walking tanks made of living stone. The clerk, a blue-skinned being with 6 eyes, looked down at Marcus with obvious confusion. "Species?" the clerk asked. "Human," Marcus replied. The clerk's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. "Human? From that small planet called Earth?" "That's right." A ripple of laughter spread through the nearby crowd. A massive creature covered in spikes turned to look at Marcus. Its voice sounded like grinding metal when it spoke. "Did the human get lost?" "The petting zoo is on level 7. More laughter erupted. Marcus kept his face calm, but his jaw tightened slightly. He had heard worse during his 20 years as a Marine. The clerk looked uncomfortable. "Sir, are you sure you want to register?" "The conclave is for elite warriors only. Many contestants die during the trials." "I'm sure," Marcus said. In the observation deck high above, Zefkari watched the registration process. The apex warrior stood 12 feet tall, his reptilian body covered in natural armor that had never been pierced in battle. His people had won the conclave for the last 8 competitions. Victory was more than tradition for them. It was their birthright. "Look at that," said Kethmore, another apex warrior standing beside him. "A human thinks it can compete with real warriors." Zefkari studied the small human below. The creature looked so fragile. No claws, no natural armor, no visible weapons. Its skin looked soft enough to tear with a gentle touch. Why would such a weak species even try? Kethmore continued. "They must know they will die quickly." "Perhaps they do not understand what real combat means," Zefkari replied, but something in the human's posture caught his attention. The way the small being stood suggested confidence, not ignorance. The registration clerk finally handed Marcus his competition badge. "You will start in the preliminary rounds tomorrow morning. May your ancestors watch over you." Marcus nodded and walked away. The crowd parted around him, some still laughing, others looking at him like he was already dead. Later that evening, Marcus sat in his assigned quarters, reviewing tactical data on his potential opponents. The room was built for much larger beings, making him feel like a child in an adult's world. His communication device buzzed with an incoming message from Earth. The face of General Harrison appeared on the screen. "Marcus, you know you don't have to do this," the general said. "No one expects you to prove anything." "Someone has to show them what humans are capable of," Marcus replied. "We can't let them think we're just another weak species they can push around. You're one man against the galaxy's best killers." "I'm a Marine, sir." "We've faced worse odds." General Harrison smiled grimly.
"Semper Fi, Marcus."
"Make us proud." The connection ended, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts. He understood the risks. Most of these warriors came from species that had evolved for combat. They were faster, stronger, and tougher than any human could ever be, but they had never fought a human before. The next morning, the arena buzzed with excitement. Thousands of spectators from hundreds of worlds filled the massive structure. Betting pools showed Marcus with odds of 10,000 to 1 against survival past the first round. The preliminary trials would test basic combat skills. Contestants faced holographic opponents programmed to fight like different alien species. The goal was simple: survive and defeat your opponent. Marcus watched as a Chronari berserker smashed through its test in less than 30 seconds. The creature stood 9 feet tall and could bench press a small vehicle. Its holographic opponent never had a chance. Next came a Veltari assassin, moving so fast that most spectators could barely follow its movements. Poison dripped from its claws as it systematically dismantled its holographic target. Then it was Marcus's turn. He stepped into the combat circle as murmurs rippled through the crowd. The holographic system activated, creating an opponent based on a Thrikari shock trooper, a species known for aggressive frontal attacks and incredible durability. The holographic Thrikari charged immediately, just as Marcus expected. Instead of meeting the charge head-on, Marcus stepped aside at the last moment. The Thrikari stumbled past him, and Marcus struck at what he knew would be a weak point in the creature's natural armor. The crowd fell silent. The holographic warrior spun around, roaring in anger. It charged again, and again Marcus avoided the direct assault. He moved like water around stone, never where his opponent expected, always striking at vulnerable points. Other contestants had won through raw power or speed. Marcus won through intelligence. High in the observation deck, Zefkari leaned forward. How did it know where to strike? Lucky guesses, Kethmore said, but he sounded less certain than before. The holographic Thurkari finally fell, its systems registering a killing blow to a nerve cluster most warriors didn't even know existed. Marcus stood over his defeated opponent, breathing hard but victorious. The arena remained silent for a long moment before scattered applause began. In the contestant waiting area, other warriors looked at Marcus with new eyes. The laughter had stopped. How did you do that? Asked a Zenthian fighter, her crystalline features reflecting confusion. I studied, Marcus replied simply. Studied what? Everything. Your species, your anatomy, your fighting styles, your weaknesses. Marcus looked around the room. You all fight like your species has always fought. That makes you predictable. A Gorvani warrior, built like a living boulder, stepped closer. You think studying will help you against real fighters? Marcus met the creature's gaze without flinching. We'll find out, won't we? The preliminary rounds continued for 3 days. Marcus advanced through each trial, not through brute force, but through tactics none of his opponents had ever encountered. He used the environment, exploited psychological weaknesses, and adapted his fighting style to counter each new challenge. By the end of the preliminaries, the laughter had completely stopped. Other contestants watched Marcus with a mixture of respect and wariness. Some began asking their coaches about human fighting techniques. In his quarters that night, Marcus received another message from Earth. This time it was from his old squad. Saw the news feeds, Gunny, said Sergeant Rodriguez. You're making us all look good. Don't get cocky yet, Marcus replied. The real tests start tomorrow. You always were too stubborn to die easy, Rodriguez laughed. Give them hell. Marcus smiled for the first time since arriving at the station. Tomorrow would bring the real challenges, but tonight he allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. In the Apex quarters, Zefkari sat in meditation, trying to understand what he had witnessed. The human fought unlike any warrior he had ever seen. There was no honor in such tactics, no glory in avoiding direct combat, yet the human had won every trial. Perhaps, Zefkari thought, there was more than one way to be a warrior. The second round of trials began with survival scenarios designed to test more than just fighting ability. Contestants were dropped into hostile environments and had to navigate dangers while completing objectives. Marcus found himself in a simulated city under siege. His mission was to reach an extraction point while enemy forces hunted him through the rubble-filled streets. He watched from a hidden position as other contestants approached the challenge. Most charged through the streets, relying on their natural abilities to smash through opposition. A few tried stealth, but their movements were predictable. Marcus chose a different path. He spent precious minutes studying the enemy patrol patterns, identifying weak points in their coverage, and planning a route that would minimize contact. When he finally moved, it was with purpose and precision. Instead of avoiding the enemy completely, Marcus used them. He triggered alarms in empty buildings to draw patrols away from his real path. He caused distractions that made the enemy hunt shadows while he slipped past unseen. Other contestants reached the extraction point through force or luck. Marcus arrived having eliminated 3 enemy patrols without raising an alarm. The judges were puzzled. According to their sensors, Marcus had somehow convinced the enemy forces to defeat themselves. How is this possible? Demanded Judge Velthak, a veteran warrior from the hegemony. Marcus was brought before the judging panel to explain his methods. Your opponents moved in predictable patterns, Marcus said. I used their expectations against them. When they heard gunfire in Building 7, they assumed I was trapped there. While they surrounded an empty room, I was already 2 blocks away. This is not honorable combat, Judge Velthak protested. The scenario didn't ask for honor, Marcus replied. It asked for survival and mission completion. Zefkari spoke from the observer's gallery. The human is correct. The rules state only that the objective must be achieved. The judges had no choice but to advance Marcus to the next round. That evening, Zefkari did something unusual. He sought out the human. Marcus was in the training area, practicing forms that looked nothing like any fighting style the Apex warrior had ever seen. The movements were fluid, precise, and strangely beautiful. "Human," Zefkari called. Marcus turned, showing no fear despite facing a being that could tear him in half. "You can call me Marcus. I am Zefkari of the Apex. I would speak with you." Marcus stopped his practice and faced the giant warrior. "What about your fighting methods? They are unlike anything in our databases." "That's the point," Marcus said. "If you fight like everyone expects, you lose the advantage of surprise." Zefkari studied the human. "Among my people, warriors meet their enemies with honor. We do not hide or use tricks. And that works for you because you're 12 feet tall and covered in natural armor." Marcus replied, "I'm 5'10" and my skin tears if I'm not careful. Honor doesn't mean much when you're dead. Then why do you fight at all? Why not accept that some species are simply superior warriors?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Have you ever had someone you loved die while you could do nothing to help them?" The question caught Zefkari off guard. "Yes. In my first campaign, my battle brother fell to enemy fire. I could not reach him in time." "Then you understand," Marcus said. "We fight because someone has to. Not for glory or dominance, but because if we don't, people die. Good people, innocent people. The Apex Code teaches similar principles," Zefkari said slowly. "Most warrior codes do. The difference is what you're willing to sacrifice to live up to them." Zefkari felt something shift in his understanding. "What do you mean?" Marcus gestured to his own body. "I'll never be as strong as you or as fast as a Veltari assassin. So I learned to be smarter. I studied every species' fighting techniques, their strengths, their weaknesses. I trained in environments that would kill most humans just to be ready for whatever I might face. But why? What drives such dedication?" "My squad," Marcus said simply. 23 Marines died under my command during the Kepler defense. I swore that would never happen again because I wasn't good enough." Zefkari felt a chill run down his spine. The way the human spoke of his fallen warriors carried a weight that resonated with something deep in Apex culture. "You carry their memory into battle," Zefkari said. "Every day. This is why you refuse to fight with honor. You fight to win, regardless of cost to yourself." Marcus shook his head. "No, that's not right. I fight with honor, human honor. We don't abandon our people. We don't leave anyone behind. We don't give up when the odds are bad." He paused. "And we sure as hell don't let bullies win just because they're bigger than us." Zefkari stared at the human for a long moment. Everything he thought he knew about warrior culture was being challenged by this small, fragile creature. "You will face the proving trials tomorrow," Zefkari said finally. "I know. They will try to break you. Not just your body, but your spirit." Marcus smiled grimly. "They can try." The next day brought the proving trials. Individual combat against increasingly dangerous opponents. By now, word of the humans' tactics had spread throughout the station. The betting odds had shifted dramatically. Marcus faced his first opponent, a Draconi warrior whose breath could melt steel. The creature was confident, having studied recordings of Marcus's previous fights. But Marcus had studied too. He knew the Draconi needed time to build up heat for their breath weapon. He knew they were vulnerable to rapid temperature changes, and he knew they expected him to run. Instead, Marcus attacked immediately using improvised weapons and environmental hazards to force the Draconi into rapid movements that disrupted its heat buildup. The fight lasted less than 5 minutes. His second opponent, a Nethys void dancer, could teleport short distances. Marcus defeated it by predicting where it would appear and setting traps at those locations. His third opponent was a young Apex warrior. The crowd fell silent as the two fighters faced each other. Zefkari watched intently from the observation deck. The Apex warrior was everything Marcus was not: tall, strong, naturally armored, and trained from birth for combat. It should have been a massacre. Marcus studied his opponent carefully. Apex warriors were trained to fight with honor, which meant they followed predictable patterns. They announced their attacks, they fought fairly, and they never struck a fallen opponent, all of which Marcus could use. The fight was brutal. The Apex warrior's strength was overwhelming, but Marcus's unpredictability kept him alive. He used the arena itself as a weapon, turning the Apex's own momentum against him and exploiting the warrior's adherence to honorable combat rules. When the Apex warrior fell, unconscious but alive, the arena erupted in chaos. A human had just defeated an Apex in single combat. In the observation deck, Zefkari felt something he had never experienced before: respect for a being his people considered inferior. The human had not just won. He had shown mercy to a defeated opponent, honoring the Apex Code even while breaking every rule of Apex combat. Perhaps, Zefkari thought, there was honor in the human's methods after all. The arena's medical bay was quiet except for the soft hum of healing machines. Marcus sat beside the bed where the young Apex warrior was recovering from their fight. The warrior's name was Keth Yar, and he was Zefkari's nephew. "You could have killed me," Keth Yar said, his voice weak but clear. "That wasn't the point," Marcus replied. "I do not understand. You had the advantage. Among the Apex, a warrior shows strength by finishing his opponent." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Where I come from, strength is shown by protecting those who can't protect themselves. Killing you would have proved nothing except that I could kill you." Kethiar studied the human with confused respect. "My uncle speaks truly. You are not like other warriors." "Neither are you," Marcus said. "You fought with honor even when you were losing. That takes real courage." The young Apex warrior's eyes widened. No alien had ever spoken to him of courage before. Later that day, Marcus advanced to the semifinals. Only 8 contestants remained from the original field of hundreds. The trial was different this time. Not individual combat, but a leadership challenge. Each contestant was given a team of civilians, actors playing refugees who needed to be evacuated from a hostile zone. The challenge was to get them to safety while under attack from automated defense systems. Marcus watched as the other contestants approached the trial. Most treated the civilians as burdens to be managed. A few ignored them entirely, focusing on their own survival. One Chronari berserker actually abandoned his group when the automated attacks intensified. When Marcus's turn came, he did something that shocked the observers. He talked to his civilian team. "What are your names?" he asked the actors. They looked confused. No contestant had ever asked that before. "I'm Sarah," said one, a young woman playing a terrified refugee. "I'm Dr. Chen," said another, an older man playing a wounded scientist. "I'm Jake," said a third, a teenager playing an orphaned student. Marcus nodded to each of them. "Sarah, you look like you know how to move quietly. I need you to scout ahead and watch for patrol patterns. Dr. Chen, that medical training isn't just for show. Some of us might get hurt. Jake, you're young and quick. You'll be our runner carrying messages between groups." The actors stared at him. They were supposed to be helpless civilians, but Marcus was treating them like people with skills and value. "But we're just refugees," Sarah protested, staying in character. "No," Marcus said firmly. "You're survivors. You've made it this far, which means you're tougher than you think. I'm going to get you out of here, but I need your help to do it." What followed was unlike anything the judges had ever seen. Marcus organized his group into an effective unit. He used their individual skills, kept morale high with constant communication, and turned the evacuation into a coordinated operation. When automated defenses attacked, the whole group responded as a team. When Sarah spotted a patrol pattern, Marcus adjusted their route. When Dr. Chen warned about a wounded team member, Marcus called a tactical halt to provide medical care. When Jake reported that another contestant's group was under heavy attack, Marcus made a decision that stunned everyone. He detoured to help them. "What are you doing?" asked Dr. Chen. "They're not our responsibility." "Yes, they are," Marcus replied. "We don't leave people behind." Marcus led his team into a firefight to rescue the Veltari assassins group, which had been pinned down by automated turrets. The rescue cost precious time and put his own team at risk, but he got everyone out alive. In the observation deck, Zefkari leaned forward, his massive hands gripping the railing. "Impossible," he whispered. "What?" asked Kethmore. "The human saved everyone. Not just his own team, but the Veltari's group as well. That makes no tactical sense. It endangered his own mission." Zefkari was silent for a long moment. "It makes perfect sense," he said finally, "if you understand what he is fighting for." The judges struggled to score the trial. Technically, Marcus had completed his mission successfully, but he had also exceeded it in ways they hadn't anticipated. The parameters were clear, Judge Velthak argued. Each contestant was responsible for their assigned group only. The parameters said nothing about not helping others, countered Judge Mordeth. In the end, they had no choice but to advance Marcus to the finals. That evening, Zefkari sought out Marcus again. He found the human in his quarters, treating a minor wound he had received during the rescue operation. "You endangered your mission to save strangers," Zefkari said. "They weren't strangers," Marcus replied, not looking up from bandaging his arm. "They were people in trouble. The Veltari assassin is your competitor. Helping her serve no purpose." Marcus finished with his bandage and looked up at the massive apex warrior. "Have you read your own warrior codes lately?" The question caught Zefkari off guard. "Of course. I have memorized every principle." "Then you know the first code. A warrior protects those who cannot protect themselves." "Yes, but that refers to our own people." "Does it?" Marcus asked. "Does it specifically say apex people, or does it just say those who cannot protect themselves?" Zefkari was quiet, thinking. "Your people have been warriors for thousands of years," Marcus continued. "But when did you last fight for something other than glory or dominance? We fight to protect the hegemony. We maintain order in this sector of space. By conquering weaker species? By bringing them under our protection." Marcus smiled sadly. "Zefkari, when was the last time you asked those species if they wanted your protection?" The question hit like a physical blow. Zefkari had never considered that subject. Peoples might not want apex rule. "I see why you confuse me," Zefkari said slowly. "You fight as our codes command, but without claiming the authority our codes grant. Maybe that's because real strength doesn't need to prove itself by dominating others." Zefkari studied the human for a long moment. Everything about Marcus challenged assumptions the apex had held for millennia. "Tomorrow we fight each other," Zefkari said. "I know. I will not hold back because you are small. I wouldn't want you to. You cannot defeat me in direct combat." Marcus met his gaze steadily. "We'll see." Zefkari left the human's quarters with his mind churning. For the first time in his life, he was unsure about the nature of true warriorship. In his own quarters, he activated a communication link to the Apex homeworld. The face of his clan leader, War Chief Morthak, appeared on the screen. "Zefkari, I have watched the broadcasts. This human troubles you." "Yes, War Chief. He fights without honor, yet he embodies our codes more perfectly than any warrior I have known." "Explain." Zefkari described Marcus's actions during the trials, his treatment of opponents, and his philosophy of warfare. War Chief Morthak was silent for a long time. "This is disturbing," he said finally. "If a weak species can shame our warriors through better adherence to our own codes, what should I do? Defeat him. Completely. Show the galaxy that apex supremacy is not just about strength, but about the righteousness of our cause." But as the communication ended, Zefkari found himself wondering, what if the human was right? What if strength without compassion was just brutality with a philosophy attached? The thought would keep him awake all night. The final day of the Warriors' Conclave arrived with unprecedented fanfare. Never before had a human reached the finals, and betting pools across the galaxy had gone insane trying to calculate odds. In the contestant preparation area, Marcus sat quietly, checking his equipment one last time. He wore simple combat gear, nothing fancy, nothing that would give him an unfair advantage. Just the basics that had kept him alive through 20 years of military service. Across the room, Zefkari performed the traditional Apex pre-battle meditation. His natural armor gleamed under the lights and his massive frame dwarfed everything around him. He was a living weapon forged by evolution and honed by millennia of warrior tradition. Other contestants and officials gave both fighters a wide berth. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut. "Contestants," announced the arena coordinator, "you will be called in 10 minutes." Marcus stood and walked toward the exit, but Zefkari intercepted him. "Human, Marcus," the Apex warrior said. Before we fight, I would speak with you. About what? Zefkari's massive hands moved to his chest, where he wore the ceremonial medallion of his rank. With deliberate movements, he removed it and held it out. I wish to perform the ritual of recognition. Marcus stared at the medallion, then up at Zefkari's face. I don't know what that means. It means I acknowledge you as a true warrior, worthy of respect among the Apex. It is an honor we have never granted to an off-worlder. The preparation area went completely silent. Every being present understood the significance of what they were witnessing. Why? Marcus asked. Because you have shown me what our codes truly mean. You fight not for personal glory, but to protect others. You show mercy to defeated enemies. You sacrifice for strangers. You embody everything the Apex claim to value, elevated to a level we have never achieved. Marcus looked at the medallion, then back at Zefkari. I can't accept this. Why not? Because I haven't earned it yet. Maybe after our fight, depending on how I conduct myself. Zefkari felt something he had never experienced before. Humility in the face of a smaller being's integrity. Then let us fight, he said. And may the best warrior prevail. They walked together into the arena. The crowd was the largest in Conclave history. Representatives from every major species in the galaxy had come to witness this unprecedented final match. The noise was deafening as the two fighters entered the combat circle. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all classifications, the announcer's voice boomed across the arena. Welcome to the finals of the Warriors Conclave. In the red corner, representing the Apex hegemony and seeking his 9th consecutive victory, the undefeated champion, Zefkari the Unbreakable. The crowd roared its approval. Zefkari was a legend, a warrior whose name was spoken with reverence across the galaxy. And in the blue corner, representing the United Earth Defense Force and making history as the first human to reach the finals, Marcus Chen the Tactician, the O. Crowd's response was mixed. Some cheered for the underdog, others laughed at what they saw as an impossible mismatch. The two fighters faced each other in the center of the circle. Zefkari towered over Marcus, his natural armor gleaming, his claws extended. Marcus looked impossibly small in comparison, a soft creature facing a living tank. Fighters, called the referee. You know the rules. Combat continues until one contestant yields, is incapacitated, or dies. Are you ready? Both fighters nodded. Begin. What followed was not the one-sided massacre many expected. Zefkari opened with a traditional apex charge, hoping to end the fight quickly with overwhelming force. But Marcus wasn't there when the massive warrior arrived. He had already moved, studying his opponent's pattern, looking for weaknesses. Fight me properly, Zefkari roared, spinning to face Marcus. I am fighting you properly, Marcus replied. You're just not used to someone who doesn't fight like you do. The battle continued for 20 minutes, far longer than anyone had expected. Marcus couldn't match Zefkari's strength or armor, but he could match his intelligence. Every attack was perfectly timed, every defense calculated to maximum effect. But Marcus was tiring. Human endurance, impressive as it was, couldn't match that of a species bred for warfare. His movements were becoming slower, his breathing labored. Zefkari recognized the signs. You cannot win, he called out. Yield with honor. Can't do that, Marcus replied, dodging another massive swipe. Too many people are watching. What people? The ones who think humans are weak. The ones who think we don't belong in the same galaxy as real warriors. Marcus ducked under another attack. If I give up, they'll never take us seriously. Zefkari paused his assault. You would die for the honor of your species? If I have to. In that moment, Zefkari understood something profound. The human wasn't fighting just for personal glory or even for victory. He was fighting for the right of his entire species to be respected. It was the most honorable cause Zefkari had ever encountered. Then let us finish this properly, Zefkari said. Fight me with everything you have. You too, Marcus replied. What followed was the finest display of combat skill the arena had ever seen. Zefkari fought with all the power and technique of his legendary reputation. Marcus fought with every trick, every bit of knowledge, every ounce of determination he possessed. The crowd was on its feet, watching in awed silence as the two warriors pushed each other to their absolute limits. Finally, inevitably, Marcus made a mistake. Fatigue caused him to misjudge a timing, and Zefkari's massive hand caught him in a crushing grip. "Yield," Zefkari said, but his voice was filled with respect rather than triumph. Marcus looked up at the giant warrior holding him. Blood ran from a cut on his forehead, and his breathing was ragged, but his eyes were clear and determined. "No," he said simply. Zefkari could have crushed the life from the human with a simple squeeze. Instead, he did something that shocked the galaxy. He released Marcus and stepped back. "I yield," Zefkari announced to the stunned arena. The silence was absolute. "What?" Marcus gasped, struggling to stand. Zefkari turned to address the crowd, his voice carrying clearly in the sudden quiet. "I have been champion of these games for 8 years. In that time, I have faced the greatest warriors the galaxy has produced. I have defeated them all through strength, through skill, through adherence to the warrior codes of my people." He gestured to Marcus, who was still trying to understand what was happening. "Today, I faced a warrior who embodies those codes more perfectly than I ever have. He fights not for personal glory but to protect others. He shows mercy to defeated enemies. He sacrifices himself for strangers. He represents everything I claim to value, perfected to a degree I have never achieved." Zefkari reached into his armor and withdrew the ceremonial medallion he had offered Marcus earlier. "Therefore I perform the ritual of recognition before all assembled witnesses. I name Marcus Chen of Earth as my battle brother and equal among warriors." He placed the medallion around Marcus's neck. "The champion of this conclave is not the strongest fighter, but the most honorable one. Marcus Chen has shown us all what it truly means to be a warrior." The arena erupted in chaos. Some spectators cheered, others protested, and many simply stared in shock at what they had witnessed. Marcus looked up at Zefkari, still not quite believing what had happened. "Why?" he asked. "Because you were right," Zefkari replied. "Strength without compassion is just brutality. Power without purpose is just destruction. You have shown me that true warriors fight not because they can, but because they must." In the days that followed, the galaxy struggled to process what they had witnessed. Some species dismissed Zefkari's actions as madness. Others began to reconsider their assumptions about humanity and warfare in general. But in the apex hegemony, something fundamental had changed. Young warriors began asking new questions about the purpose of strength. Older generals found themselves examining their methods and motivations. Marcus returned to Earth as more than just a survivor of the conclave. He had become proof that humanity belonged among the stars as equals, not subjects. And Zefkari began the most important mission of his long career, teaching his people that the greatest victory was not in defeating an enemy, but in making them an ally. The two warriors maintained contact across the vast distances of space, sharing tactical knowledge and philosophical insights. Their friendship became a bridge between species that had never imagined they could learn from each other. In military academies across the galaxy, the final match of that year's Warriors Conclave became required study, not for its demonstration of combat techniques, but for its lesson about the true nature of honor. And sometimes, late at night in the barracks of human military bases, young Marines would listen to recordings of the fight and feel a surge of pride in their species. Marcus Chen had shown the galaxy that humans might be small and soft and short-lived, but they were warriors nonetheless. The kind of warriors the galaxy needed, even if it hadn't known it yet. Years later, when the first joint human apex military units were formed to defend against threats from outside the galaxy, historians would point to that day in the arena as the moment when everything changed, the day when the apex warrior accepted the human as brother, and they all stopped laughing.